What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is that time of year. There are predictions on standings, on awards. There are cold weather CONCACAF Champions Cup games between two MLS teams. There is icicles in Olivier Giroud's beard. There is just a sadness on Hugo Lloris's face as he plays yet another very, very cold weather game at the beginning of his season. That's right. MLS is just about back. CONCACAF Champions Cup has been playing this week. Whenever you're watching this, there might be CCC games on right now. There might have been a couple in the rear view. Again, the season got kicked off with Colorado LAFC in the CONCACAF Champions Cup on Tuesday night. But that doesn't matter for this second because we're just talking about Major League Soccer, and it is back on Saturday. What better way to proclaim that a league is back? Quite like power rankings. Yes, we all love it. We all hate it. We all yell about it. We all say we don't care, but then we care enough to yell. So that's what we're here to do today. I'm going to take all 30 teams, yes, 30, welcome San Diego FC, and break them down into power rankings. But just like last year, I prefer to do this via tiers because, like any other league, but particularly Major League Soccer with so much chaos, there's going to be a lot of different ways to go up and down. You're splitting hairs. You could argue with me that my 27th team should have been 30th or the 15th should have been 18th. I get it. I can't, fight back too hard. But what I do feel strongly about are these tiers. We're going to go all the way up to our Apex contenders and all the way down to outside looking in. And yes, that first tier is going to be very wide, and I'll explain it to you when I get there. But quick housekeeping. Please listen over on SoccerWise. We have done a billion season previews. We're going team by team. David Goss has done so much incredible work here. We have been trying to find local podcasts to talk to us about their team. We talk with them. It has been a lot, but it has been really, really good. It's been well received. We've appreciated that. But please reward David Goss's hard work, some of my hard work. He's been doing a whole lot more than me on that front by listening, watching, subscribing, whatever. You can see all of those videos on SoccerWise, and you can listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and you can get into the Discord via Patreon. Okay, one more thing to promote. I'm going to be on Morning Footy every day next week, starting Monday the 24th, right after the first weekend of Major League Soccer. I'm going to be on that desk every day next week. It would mean a lot to me if you guys subscribe. I will have a free trial, a URL that I will be tweeting at some point this week. So if you're on the fence about Paramount Plus, but you care enough about this to watch my video, I will give you that link, and you can sign up for free, and you can watch it for free. And hey, if you like what you see, you stick around. But I'd appreciate that. You guys are the best. Anyway, too much of an intro. Let's get into the power rankings. That's why you're here. Let's do it. Let's get into it. First tier, outside looking in. Yes, this is a big tier, but honest to God, I could talk myself into a playoff run for any of these teams, or at least playoff qualification. Maybe some of these, there are more ifs than the others, but that's why they are down here. That is, they have more questions than other teams in the league. But again, as stupid as it sounds, I'll sound like I have the pom-poms out for MLS. All of these teams, I can absolutely see a scenario in which they go to the playoffs. So I'll probably lean into the positive because we're all the way at the bottom of this. It's nice to be optimistic about the teams at the bottom of the list. 30, Sporting Kansas City. 29, Toronto FC. 28, DC United. 27, CF Montreal. 26, Vancouver Whitecaps. 25, Nashville SC. 24, San Jose Earthquakes. 23, San Diego FC. Let's start with Kansas City. I really love the addition of Dejan Joveljic, and I really like the addition of Manu Garcia. There are still too many questions for me about this team, particularly defensively. They scored some goals last year. They have the infrastructure. They have whatever. Manu Garcia is extremely important. Dejan Joveljic is going to be, I think he's going to score goals no matter what. I just don't know if they're going to have the team around those two players to really challenge for a serious playoff spot. The defense has the same exact issues as last year and the year before. And I think the year before that, if I'm going all the way back in my brain, I'm worried about them in defensive transition. I'm worried about them in defensive depth. But the way that this goes well is Manu Garcia is really, really good. Dejan Joveljic just keeps doing what he's doing. He scores another 15 to 20 goals, and this team gets to the playoffs. I'll use Dejan Jovlic's words from him. He said, playoffs isn't even a question. That has to be the absolute bare minimum, and then we go from there. That's going to be Casey's goal this year. It's going to be tough. The West has a lot of teams reloaded. There aren't so many obvious, okay, that team should be in last, or that team should be at last. So while I'm putting them 30th right now, putting them at the bottom of the rankings, somebody had to be there. I do feel bad, but there are a lot of good players on this team, a lot to like. We can see where it goes. Toronto FC, I really like the Robin Fraser addition. I like what this front office is doing, and it's not their fault that Lorenzo Insigne didn't leave. They tried. They did what they could. That's going to hamstring them. This team, they brought in Ola Brynhildensen as a center forward. I like the midfield trio because I think it's industrious. I think that they're going to be super competitive in that area. Central defense, they signed Arsenal's U21 captain. That could be a really good signing, but unproven in MLS, a young player. There might be some mistakes. It's just that kind of center back, fullback, honestly, particularly because Richie Larea has been injured so much over the past few years, and Raul Petretta on the other side. Like, that back four in front of Sean Johnson. Sean Johnson's still really good. That back four, there's just too many questions to really push them higher up. But Federico Bernardeschi, if he is as incredible as he was last year, they almost made the playoffs last year on that. So, I want to remind you, look at this team. We're going to talk about DC United. Both of those teams came really close to making the playoffs. And they were both at the bottom of the preseason power rankings, all that stuff. So all these teams can be competitive. MLS can be forgiving with the playoff spots, but it's more competitive than ever. That's where I kind of see it here, and we'll transition with that to DC. DC's system and Christian Benteke alone should keep them in the playoff race for most of the season. I don't think that there is going to be a distant last place at this juncture. I can't see it, at least. DC United should be pushing for the playoffs. They want to be pushing for the playoffs. This team also has a couple too many question marks for me to push them further up. Chance creation, again, I know chance creation comes by way of the press. It comes by way of launching balls to Christian Benteke's forehead because he is the most singularly aerial dominant player this league has ever seen. That's one way, but towards the end of the season, they were giving up too many goals, and going with long balls, you lose the ball more. Yes, it gives you chances to press, but if you don't win it back on the press, it's constantly going up and back, up and back, up and back. And last year, this defense was nowhere near good enough to cope. This year, they're completely remade. They did not retain one single goalkeeper from last year. They've brought in Kai Rolls, an Australian international center back, and they're making moves around the roster. Maybe there's one more big move to come, maybe not. Who knows? If the team is set as is, it's going to be difficult, but the way that they get to the playoffs is through this system, through the press, through everything being cohesive, and Christian Benteke, being Christian Benteke. So DC United is 28, 27, CF Montreal. It's kind of like DC where it'll be the system, it'll be the collective. I like a lot of these pieces, but I don't love any of them to be, the best player in an attack or the best player in a defense or the best player in a midfield. If they had a couple anchors, and this is going to be my argument, if ownership is watching, my argument is you can still roll the dice on a lot of talented young players, a couple question marks, whatever it is, the way that they brought in Caden Clark, and he was really good at the end of last season. Caden Clark can still be really good, and you can still sign a DP9 or a DP10 or a center mid, or you can have a 31-year-old center back anchoring the defensive unit. That's not going to block some of your young center backs. Diversify is what I would like, and that's why with Montreal, I can't get there. I can totally see it. That Wilfred Nancy team that had, 65 points or whatever it was in his last year before he went to Columbus, there were no known stars on that team before the season started. Georgi Mihailovic, Victor Wanyama, those were not guys that we thought were best 11 caliber players. Well, that season they were. So that's how Montreal gets there. 26, Vancouver. If they do what they did last year, they'll get in the playoffs. I'm just a little bit dubious. The vibes around this team aren't great. The ownership, they're up for sale. New head coach coming in. Stuart Armstrong leaves, not replaced with a DP. There are, Ryan Gauld, I have all the respect in the world for. He was a true MVP candidate, 2 years ago with the hats, the working class MVP. I love it. It's awesome. He's fit so well there. They built around him very, very well. It's not that this team got any worse or necessarily worse. It's that so many teams around them got better. You kind of can look at it like one of these teams coming up, San Jose, San Diego. San Diego has Chucky Lozano and Anders Dreyer. Yes, they have a lot of questions too, but they have the top-end talent. And again, if Chucky Lozano is as good as Ryan Gauld has been, that's a fair pushback because Ryan Gauld is a star in this league. Brian White is a proven goal scorer, number 9. That's really all the juice that I have. The defensive unit is solid, it's strong. Maybe I'm knocking them because this isn't a sexy pick, but I just think that the vibes are down. I think that there are too many question marks. Haven't replaced Stuart Armstrong. I was critical of that signing when it happened, and then by the playoff run, I was like, well, this guy's really good. I see how he elevates the team. A new coach coming in with an established roster, if they don't hit the ground running, it's going to be a really difficult hole to dig out of. And with new coaches and stuff, particularly somebody who doesn't have experience here, it's not, I don't love to say, okay, they're going to win 7 of the first 10 games or whatever it is. Again, this team can be very good. I get it. I'm probably a little bit too pessimistic on them, but there's just a lot going on in the Western Conference here. 25, Nashville. If Hani Mukhtar is his best 11 self and Walker Zimmerman is his best 11 self, this is going to look really, really dumb. But those two players haven't been that. Walker Zimmerman was dealing with injuries. Hani Mukhtar kind of hit a cold patch 18 months ago. I still trust that he's going to figure it out and he's going to be better, and hopefully under BJ Callahan there'll be more attacking, more free-flowing football. But again, one too many ifs for me. We'll see how some of these new signings coalesce. If Gaston Brugman, he's had a lot of injury issues with the LA Galaxy. If he can start 25 to 28 games, that'll help a lot. But I don't know if that's a great bet. 24 San Jose Earthquakes. I have a lot of respect for Bruce Arena. That's where a lot of the optimism is going to come. Chicho Arango, if he's the first half of 2024 more than the second half of 2024, this will look really silly. But again, it's defensive transition. It's overhauling a defense. They have a lot of better individual pieces. And again, I really trust Bruce Arena to make this team very competitive. Will they make the playoffs? Can you play Chicho and Joseph at the same time? I don't know. Hernan Lopez, I don't know. I definitely don't think that you can play all three of those without a three at the back. And that takes away from Christian Espinoza or Amal Pellegrino or insert any of the other kind of fine attacking players on this team. Christian Espinoza deserves to be on a team that's really, really good. I think a lot more people around the league, some more maybe casuals or people who aren't watching San Jose because San Jose haven't had a big reason to be watched, particularly, within a third of last season. Christian Espinoza is so consistent. He's so good. I'm hoping that he's on a good team, but too many ifs once again. San Diego, speaking of ifs, this is a team that is going from dream to reality. There is a lot going on here. We'll see how this defense comes together. They're going to try to play out of the back. This team, I think, is going to be entertaining, even if it's not for, the best competitive reasons, just because they're going to be open games. They're going to try to play on the ball. Chucky Lozano is going to have a lot of really good moments. Anders Dreyer is a very good signing. Luca De La Torre, what a homecoming. That's going to be super fun to watch. Again, I'm pretty optimistic on them that they're going to stick around the playoff race, and push comes to shove right now, I'd have to say no, just because, again, there are so many other Western Conference teams that have done a lot this winter and are rebuilding and have less question marks than a new expansion team. I hope that they are really good to begin with. A lot of people looked at St. Louis and thought that they were going to be really, really bad in their first year. Guess what? They topped the Western Conference. So if things bounce right, if the plans come together, again, if Chucky Lozano and Anders Dreyer are really, really good, then, your fourth center back, that doesn't become as big a question. If the goalkeeper, CJ Dos Santos, if he is ready to be a starting goalkeeper in the league, as San Diego are betting he is, then that answers a big question. So there's a lot going on with this team and a lot of unknowns because we haven't seen them play just preseason games, and we're not going to put too much stock into that. Then San Diego, questions, but high upside, I don't know. We're going to watch. It's going to be next tier. This one is a specific one. It's called, is a new DP coming? Well, Houston Dynamo 22, NYCFC 21. These are very, very big questions for these two teams. I like the foundation on both. Houston has more change year over year than NYCFC does in terms of the micro. Hector Herrera's out. You have Coco Carrasquilla out. Mikael is out. Those are three integral pieces of this team, but the structure of the head coach, the front office, the playing style, game model, all of that's going to continue on. So there are questions about personnel, but not about game model. NYCFC is a little bit different. New head coach that should hopefully get the most out of their high talent, high priced young attackers and maybe tweak the style or whatever, but they're returning a decent amount of players other than Santi Rodriguez. So that's another big issue for NYCFC. For both of these teams, they both want a DP number 10. Houston has just signed Nico Lodeiro. That's going to help in the interim. I think that was a smart move to get an MLS veteran, a proven guy, a hard worker, somebody who will fit this system, and I think be solid for them as, I guess, a placeholder, for lack of a better term, for getting a DP10 in, whether that's now or whether that's in the summer. If they did not bring Nico Lodeiro in, I'd be feeling much worse about Houston. At least this gives them another body. I love the Jack McGlynn signing. I'm worried about the defense just because Mikael was so good, but again, this was a really positive story for Houston, for the player of development. He came to the second team. He was unknown in Brazil, didn't really break through. Comes to Houston's second team, gets into the first team, and then spends 2 years being one of the best center backs in the league. Now he's off to Palmeiras in a Houston Dynamo club record deal. The second time they've done that this winter, that was another important thing for this group, to try to move on players and show that they're going to sign young players and they're going to let people go. They're not going to hold them ransom for crazy fees. All of that's good. In the sense of power rankings, though, it's going to be very difficult to replace Coco Carrasquilla and Mikael. Again, I do those deals. I absolutely get why they did. They should have. That's all right. But it still gives them questions right now. I still think that this has a chance to be a playoff team. I love the game model. I love the aesthetics. I think Ezequiel Ponce is going to have a very good season. But he can't do it all on his own. It's funny. This time last year, we were saying, they need a center forward. They need somebody to score goals. Everything else is so good, so perfect. Now they have their guy. I believe that is their guy. They believe that's their guy. We'll see what happens this season over his first full year. But now it's more about, what about the center back or the other center mid or maybe a DP10? So it's just a different problem for this team. But they fixed it last year. Even without Hector Herrera at the beginning of the season, they were playing the same style, fearless, all of that. Even without a true DP center forward, Sebas Ferreira wasn't that, and then he got hurt. They were still playing the same. They're gonna be brave. They're gonna be courageous, and they're gonna be fun to watch. So you always hope that that's rewarded. NYCFC, if they can get the most out of their high-priced young talent, then this coaching change is perfect. I think that they're going to be more on the front foot. They're going to be more fun to watch. But they don't have any special players in this team right now. Maxi Morales, at his age, he's still wonderful. He's still a delight. That's not the guy that is your best player going into a game, again, in the Eastern Conference against somebody else's best player. Let's say New England Revolution. They're kind of in a similar tier. Well, they have Carlos Hill. They have some other really good, talented players. Again, the collective can be the team, but they can add 2 DP spots. They haven't yet because Talis Magno does not count as a DP while he's on loan. I'd be doubtful that he comes back. You never know, right? But they can add 2 DPs. It's February 19th at time of recording. Hopefully that they can get that done at some point in this window because I don't think that there's going to be wiggle room to wait for a DP10 or a DP attacker to come in the summer when you've already played 24 games. I think it'll be too far gone by that point. Next tier, East playoff bubble. And I'm going to start here by saying this is where you need to read into the tier system and not the numbers because this tier and the next tier are the playoff bubble teams for me. And you could, again, I have New England 20th just for this. They could be, the next tier goes all the way up to 12th. I could see it, right? These are all interchangeable. These are the teams that aren't going to be, or probably not, let me not say aren't. As I'm looking at it right now, I'm not looking at them as top 4 in the East or the West. And not 100% playoff teams, but they should be on that bubble. So let's start with the East. 20 New England, 19 Philly, 18 Chicago. All these teams have new head coaches. All of these teams have a ton of reasons for optimism, but they do have the questions, right? So New England will go with, I like every single signing they made. Honestly, like Leo Campana is going to be really good in this team. I think he's going to score goals. I think he's going to fit really well. Ignatius Ganago, the more and more I hear about him, the more and more this is a big-time signing. And he can play on the wing, and I think he'll start on the wing with Leo Campana up front. There's plenty of room for Thomas Shankly and a lot of other good attackers in this team, but I do think that Ganago is going to be a full-time starter for this team, and if it goes well, they pick up the purchase option, and I'm assuming the purchase option would make him a DP. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just saying they do have a DP spot open, and it seems like what they did with Thomas Shankly when they brought him on loan triggered the option that made him a DP, but I don't know that for sure. The center backs. Each of Caballos and Fofana, I love their profiles. And I do think that both are going to hit in MLS. But that's no guarantee, particularly with center backs. How many center backs in the range of, $2.5 million to $3.5 million transfer fee in prime, proven at other leagues? Sometimes it just doesn't work out. And that's just the way of global football, and that's just the way of MLS, right? They have 2 of them. So again, I am assuming that both are going to be good and both fit well, but there is a lot of risk there. And that's kind of why I have them behind Philly and Chicago, just by a hair. Because in a month, if they look awesome, then this will be very easily forgotten, and they're going to move on up because I don't have any issues. I don't have any questions with the attack. I really love Yusuf, the central midfielder they brought in the summer of last year. I think that's another building block, and if these 2 center backs hit, this team is going to be very good. But that's a lot of ifs, and we've seen it so many times in MLS that I got to be careful with the optimism. 19 Philly, they too have a lot of changes. They have Bradley Carnell coming in as head coach, and what we're going to see is car crash soccer. They are going to be top 5 in all of the pressing metrics. I feel extraordinarily confident about that. That was the reason that they moved on from Jim Curtin. Whether you agree or disagree with it, I disagree with it still. But that was the power struggle. That was the decision. It was the future of this club. This is what we want to be. We want to be a pressing team. That's what we're going to do. And so that system lends itself really, really well historically, or at least in the recent past of MLS. When you do this really well, if you do it cohesively, even if you're looking at the team and saying, I don't know who the star is, I don't know who the difference maker is. Guess what? If you're solid defensively and everybody is going in the same direction with this press, the floor is very high. Philadelphia, I will give credit to Ernst Tanner and that front office scouting staff, everybody else. They have hit on so many people that we've never heard of, that their profile maybe seem underwhelming, and then they come here and they're awesome. So I'm just going to assume that for the center back, Glinovic, and for the center forward, Damiani. Damiani is less important than Glavinovic in hitting immediately and being successful because they're lighter in central defense, and in the attack, they might take a little while to get him in. Because Mikel Ura and Ty Baribo, fine. That works out. If Damiani can give them more, give them better, club record signing at $3.4 million, if he gives them more, that's all the better. But it's most important that Glavinovic is, and I'm just not pronouncing that name correctly yet. We're going to hear it on Apple TV on the broadcast. I'll feel better. Just give me a break here. If he hits immediately, then I have very few questions about the floor of this team. Ceiling, totally fair. I don't see them top 4. I don't see them top 6. I see them in the mix for the wild card game. This is different than, say, 22, 23, 21, where you were like, oh man, like I think the floor is going to be high, and also they're challenging for MLS Cup. I don't see it for this team, but I am higher on them than most in terms of their floor, and I think they're going to be really competitive and really solid. Chicago too. This is the first time that I think we've had real, genuine optimism in Chicago that feels like it's rooted in fact for a long time. Greg Berhalter is in as head coach. This team is going to be much better defensively. They're going to have patterns going forward. When he was in MLS, the center forwards on the Columbus Crew he had, all of them had their career best years. All of them. Zardes, Ola Kamara, Kai Kamara. That's what he does. So Ugo Kuipers signed for a $12 million fee. I'm looking at him to have a big year goal scoring. Jonathan Bamba was electric in Coachella in preseason. Again, that if he was bad, I wouldn't be saying that means he's going to be a bad signing. And I'm not saying that a good preseason means that everything's going to be perfect. But what I saw of him in Coachella, people I've talked to have been blown away by him so far. If that continues, they have their attacking star. They have a really strong unit. Jack Elliott had a bad year last year. I'm betting that was just an anomaly and not what he is. So they have their defensive anchor. They don't have a lot of holes in this roster. They have a DP spot to add. I wouldn't do it yet. I would want to see what this team looks like, and I think that's what they're going to do. But this is a team that marries the competitiveness, the structure, and like what we know is going to come from a Greg Berhalter team while having enough talent within the team. Cal Costa as well. Haven't said his name yet, right? While having enough talent in the team to actually be good and be good right away. And I think that's what they're going to be. Right, next year, I tease this a bit. This is a very wide one. And this is honestly where I struggled most when I'm doing my predictions. Trying to figure out who is 5th through 11th, I think, in the West. And here we are. West playoff bubble. 17 Austin, 16 Real Salt Lake, 15 Portland, 14 Dallas, 13 St. Louis, 12 Colorado. You could put these teams in any kind of sequence, and I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. I could see it. And it's going to be really, really hard, I think, going from, outside of like the top teams in the West, which we'll get to, of course. This area is going to be so difficult. I think it's going to be decided by a handful of points. Like you remember last year, the way that the playoff seeding was going, that every result towards the end of the season was changing the predicted playoff matches. I think that's what it's going to be, and I think it's going to be very tight for just missing the playoffs to challenging for a home playoff game. And that kind of shows the depth. And again, when I was talking about the outside looking in for some teams, look at what Austin has done. $30 million in attacking talent the last 2 windows. Look what Dallas has done. They just bring in Lucho Costa. They're remaking the team. St. Louis with everything they did last summer. Real Salt Lake, really, really good. Anytime we've had questions about them, they still made the playoffs. And there are questions now, but at some point you got to believe in it, right? Portland, yes, they lost Evander, but they bring in David DaCosta, and they still have a really good attack and hopefully an improved defense. And Colorado, we're really good. We're really solid last year. They peaked at really good in the Leagues Cup. And they're bringing back all of those players, and they should be more athletic defensively. Not as athletic as Moise Bombito, because there are few players in the world that are that athletic and that can eliminate players in defensive transition. But they'll be better this year. They knew that's where they needed to get better. So I'm talking about them all in general right now for that reason, because I think all of these teams are solid, but somebody needs to miss the playoffs. Or likely somebody, because obviously my structure, you could reject my premise that somebody is going to miss, but it's going to be really tough. There are a lot of good teams here. So let's go with Austin. Like Brandon Vasquez, I think is such an excellent signing, and there were some eyebrows raised over the price. It was $10 million. Yeah, maybe that was a little bit more than you want to spend. But guess what? Like, I have no doubts that he's going to come here and be really good. I have no doubts that if Nico Estevez says, I want to play a 4-3-3, which is the plan, he's going to be great as a lone center forward in this. If Nico Estevez says, you know what, this week, let's do 3-5-2, have you and Uzuni play off each other. Guess what? He's going to be awesome at that too. Look at what he did with Cincinnati with another center forward, Brenner, with Lucho Costa underneath him. So that's money well spent for me. Mirto Uzuni, that was north of $12 million. Yeah, that was steep too, but they got $10 million from Sebastian Driussi, which was about $7 million more than I thought they were going to. So if you do a little creative accounting, the way you spin things or the way that you look at things, if you're going into this saying, I think Austin's going to be very good, that's what you say. If you go into things saying, I don't think Austin's going to be that good, you would point to, oh, Zuni's too much money. Yeah, Vasquez is good, but maybe that was too much. Hey, look at the defensive unit. The defensive transition still going to be an issue. Can Ilie Sanchez be the deepest midfielder in a team that, struggled with defensive transition last season? I'm choosing to look more optimistic at Austin. I think that they're going to be, at the very least, much more fun. Nico Estevez getting his shot with this team after leading FC Dallas. I hope that the defensive unit is going to be better, that he can trust and really expand this team just like he wants to. I have every confidence that he's going to. 16, Real Salt Lake. Center forward. I reported that Elias Manuel just didn't show up. He didn't agree to go to Utah. He didn't agree to go to Real Salt Lake. There was talks back and forth. The Real Salt Lake are very disappointed because when they talked to him, when they initially acquired him from the New York Red Bulls, they tell me he was excited. He was happy. There were talks, maybe we'll do a new deal. Would that make you feel better? And then it just got to the point where, look, man, if you don't want to be here, we're not going to hold you here. So let's go into the season without you. They have issues at center forward. Even if they had Elias Manuel, I wouldn't feel like that was solved. But particularly now without him, it's very light up there. What they do have is a phenomenal midfield unit. Diego Luna, Dominic Marchuk. You go Diego Gonçalves. You go deeper. Emeka Eneli, Pablo Ruiz, Nelson Palacios. Like all these players, Brian Ojeda. All of these players, I think that's one of the best midfield units in the league, honestly, right? Like if you're playing a 4-2-3-1 or if they go 3-4-2-1, right? That's up there with some of the best units in the league. What's the problem is no center forward right now. And is the defense, you could look at the defense in two ways. It's really strong or it's like, am I worried about it? I'm kind of in between right now. But again, like they made the playoffs in years where an ownership was being forced out and they were given no money. And somehow they still were making the playoffs. They had a head coach leave during the season and take an assistant job somewhere else. They still made the playoffs. So this is a team that I just believe in, right? But again, like not enough to push them out of this little grouping here. 15 Portland Timbers. I'm higher on them than most. If you look at Give Me Sports power rankings, you'll see what they come out. I don't know where they come out, but I had them at like 15th. I think everybody else had them in the 20s. So there's a discrepancy here. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? What I like. The attack is going to be really good. No questions, even without Evander. David DaCosta, maybe he had underwhelming numbers in France, but look, man, I always go back to this. Carlos Hill scored no goals in England for Aston Villa. And he came to MLS, he was an MVP. And that doesn't just saying that this league stinks. It's like players flourish in different systems. Players flourish when given more responsibility. David DaCosta has had to fight and claw for every minute. He's looked at as the academy graduate, the kid at Lons. Well, now he's looked at as the dude in Portland. And guess what? It comes with more pressure. It comes with more responsibility. It comes with more freedom. So if he reacts well, and people I talk to at Portland are through the roof about this signing, if he does that and he gives you more defensively, he's somebody who fits better into his system. Again, I don't worry about the attack. The defense is what they needed to improve. This should help them defensively. Doesn't solve everything, right? But it's a step in the right direction. Jimmer Foray, left back, that dude looks incredibly athletic. He's somebody that, as long as he's not getting caught too high up the field, should help with defensive transition. I don't know. We'll see. And they have a lot of center backs I like. Like last year, I couldn't really understand individually why are you giving up so many goals. It's because of the transition. It's because of individual mistakes, right? But like, I look at this team on my depth charts, and I'm like, I like Kamal Miller. I like Suparic. Finn Sermon. Portland keep telling me how good he is, right? I love Juan Mosquera. I know that what he's best at is going forward, and that doesn't help you with defensively. I really like Maxime Crépeau. It's like, I like all these players. Why are you conceding so many goals? So let's see if they can, positively regress to the mean. 14 Dallas. I'm probably taking a leap of faith here, but I can't stop thinking about Lucho Acosta, Peter Musa as an attacking duo. They're going to score so many goals, and they're going to be so much fun to watch. Think about Lucho Acosta last year. How many players FC Cincinnati were missing? How many ins and outs? The Aaron Bupenza fiasco? Everything else? He was awesome. He was single-handedly keeping them in the Supporter Shield race. He was, for the first half of the season, undoubtedly better than his MVP season in 23. And he was like a one-man wrecking crew. Peter Musa, down to the second half of the season, particularly in the summer, he was incredible. I wanted to get there with Peter Musa as my Golden Boot pick. I couldn't because I think Lucho's going to take the penalties. If Musa takes penalties, I think he's your Golden Boot winner. If he stays here through the summer, I think like that's too many ifs for me to put it on the line for him to be the Golden Boot winner. But I just see those two players and I'm like, this team must be really good. The wingers around them, they're not stars, but they have pace and they are going to work hard. You have your piano player in Lucho Acosta, have the wingers that make vertical runs and then get back defensively. That's what I think that they'll do. And again, Peter Musa is going to score so many goals. Defense is the issue. Once again, I'm going to believe in a Max Tam type signing in the center back that they brought in from Amiens. If he hits, man, this team is going to be good. This team is going to be playoff good. And Lucho Acosta, Peter Musa, that's too sexy for me to look away from. 13, St. Louis. I feel like I've been saying the same thing since the summer. I love the signings. I love Hartle. I love Teutschert. Again, to add to Leuven and Berkey and kind of Thomas Totlin, and now they brought in another really good wingback, and you kind of go on down the list. So many players I like, and now with Hartle and Teutschert in the attack, you don't have to rely as much on João Klaus. And Simon Betcher has been honestly better than João Klaus last season. But these signings came too late in the summer because people I talked to at that club say if we had 2 more regular season games, we would have made the playoffs, no doubt about it. They have that confidence going into 2025, and they'll have the full team from the beginning of the season. So what I said about Philly and the system being a really high floor, same thing with St. Louis. That's how they topped the Western Conference in their first year. You get a little bit of luck. They outperformed their XG. Well, guess what? They had an incredible goalkeeper. Yeah, the attack regressed. That's why they missed the playoffs last year. But you give yourself those chances to have that luck take you from 7th to 2nd rather than like needing the luck to even get to 7. So I think that the floor is pretty high. They're going to be really competitive. I'm betting on them a lot, I think, to be a playoff team. Colorado, another team I'm higher on than most. Yes, I understand the issues. Yes, I understand the worries. Yes, you could say, did they hit their ceiling in Leagues Cup? I don't think so, because I think Georgi Mihailovic can go just a little bit more up, and I think Rafa Navarro, what he showed last year was completely real. And they bring in Josh Atencio. That makes the midfield better. They have different options for Chris Armas. They could go 3 at the back. Now that they have Chidozie Awaziam, Ian Murphy to go as additions into that back line, and you can play Kevin Cabral as a wing back or whoever, right? They have a lot of positional versatility. They can play Cole Bassett as a pressing 10 and move Georgie to the left wing. Teddy Gudi-Pietro, when he's fit, that's another kind of angle that they don't have, somebody who can absolutely eliminate players off the dribble and do tight combinations. Kevin Cabral is really vertical where you have to drop, and when he gets in a one-on-one situation with momentum, he's a really good dribbler, but Teddy Gudi-Pietro is a little bit different. They can both kind of do good things in the attack. They both have their flaws, but that's why I do like this team, and that's kind of why I have them slightly. 3 more tiers to go, and we are into our top 11. These are the teams that I think are going to be comfortably playoff teams, but are they going to be 6th? Are they going to be 3rd? Can they challenge these top tiers? 11, Orlando City, 10, Minnesota United, and 9, Columbus Crew. Let's start with Orlando City. This is a bet that Marco Pasalic is going to do a similar amount of production as Facundo Torres, that Edward Atuesta is going to give them another dimension in possession, and that Cesar Araujo is going to be able to cover for the ground that he can't really make up, right? And I think that they still have room for a couple, maybe, rotational depth type moves because Nico Lodero's gone and Michael Holliday's gone. Both of them went to Houston. So I think that they have room for a couple more tweaks, but I also think that David Bracalo, I was really high on him when they signed him last year. He never broke into the lineup. Maybe that's this year, or maybe Rodrigo Slago is going to keep him out. I don't know. I'm not sure. I hate to say it. I'm not all the way out on Luis Muriel right now, particularly if he's a super sub. He's not going to be starting, 30 games, right? He could play as in that 10 role. Again, he's a luxury because he's not doing anything defensively. But if you have Ramiro Enrique or Duncan McGuire running like hell to make space up top, you have, Ivan Angulo, Martino Hayda, whether either one that plays on the wing, if Muriel is as a 10, and Pasalic. I'm not ready to give up. That's all I'm saying. And I know this sounds pretty stupid after the year he had last year, but that's where I am. Number 10, Minnesota United. This, I think everybody has them as this is where I'm going to be different. This is my dark horse pick. And then you kind of look at all the predictions coming out, and I think a lot of people have them 3rd in the West. So I think I love that upside. I think that's what's real. But to play devil's advocate, to ask some questions, you could say, hey, Calvin Yeboah, is that sustainable over a season? Did it come from penalties? Did too much come from penalties, I should say. What Robin Lode, was that his best season, or is that going to be repeatable? The defensive unit, everything else. Hey, well, now teams have seen they're not going to sneak up on anybody. Eric Ramsey's system, everything else. I believe that they're going to be very good. I believe that Yeboah is a real deal. Whether or not I wouldn't go to say in the Golden Boot, top 5 or whatever, which some other people are. And hey, I love that bold take, and I hope that it comes to be. But I don't think that that's fair to kind of put him there just yet. Even if he's not, they're going to be very good. This is another team where the collective is the star, but now they hope to have a star in Calvin Yeboah, and they do have a star in Robin Lode. He's one of the hipsters' favorite players. I love that dude. I love watching him play. Eric Ramsey is an excellent coach, and again, it's like I'm arguing with myself. That's where we're on with one person doing a show like this. I gotta give a straw man take and then knock it down. If you're worried about Minnesota United, other teams having tape on them, exactly, maybe you know how they're going to play, what they want to do, they're not going to sneak up on you. I know for a fact Eric Ramsey already has the next line of tweaks. He showed one in preseason. Tani Oluwaseyi and Calvin Yeboah played as 2 center forwards. Instead of a 3-4-2-1, it was a 3-4-1-2. Robin Lode can play as a 10. He could play as kind of one of those half spaces. He could play as an 8. You could change it up. They have so many different ways to alter this team. And again, I just think that Eric Ramsey's mind is very, very sharp. He's very thoughtful. My favorite part about this team is when you watch them, they move in a unit. Like whether they're high pressing, it's all together. Whether they're dropping deep, it's all together. Looking at the left, like that is a sign of really good coaching. And so I'm just going to bet that he's going to have answers, even if they get stuck in the mud sometimes. 9, Columbus Crew. There's another one with the manager. Again, more so obviously than Ramsey because of what Nancy has done in this league. He's done it for longer. Won any trophies, right? The question here is, who's the DP9? Is there going to be a DP10? What happens? Because right now, they're really light up top. Right now, it's Jason Russell-Rowe. It's Diego Rossi, and it's Dylan Chambost or AZ Jackson. This is a team that has made its calling card by, it doesn't matter who's playing in a front three. It doesn't matter who's where. Like, we can move players to different positions. And whether it's Cucho or whether it's Jason Russell-Rowe, whether it's Christian Ramirez or whether it's AZ Jackson, we're going to play the same way. And we're going to be fun. We're going to have freedom. We're going to dare to be courageous. All that's true. It's just difficult to be saying DP number 9, DP number 9. Who, when are they coming? Is the player going to adapt quickly? So that is the only reason that I have them 9th. If when I'm done recording this video, I get a call, it says deal's being finalized for insert, $10 million player, $5 million player, whatever the number ends up being, I can change my mind very quickly. And then it's like, hey, we're also looking for a DP10. If that's the case, that changes very quickly. It's just they're so light in the attack right now. Steven Moreira is hitting kind of the late stage of his prime. Rudy Camacho lost a bit of a step at the end of last season. They're still going to be really, really good. But I couldn't put them in the next group. And this might look silly in a few months because the next 3 are the sexy upstarts or the teams with new additions and stuff, whereas the Crew is just keep doing what they're doing under Wilfried Nancy. So maybe this looks dumb, but that's why I have them just out of that second tier. All right, 2 more tiers to go. Outer Circle Contenders is what I'm calling this one. It's 3 teams in the East that I didn't know how to separate them. I'm really high on all 3 of these teams. You could put them in any order you want. I think they're all 3 are going to be really good, and they're going to be challenging for trophies. 8, Atlanta United. 7, Charlotte FC. 6, New York Red Bulls. Atlanta United, the most opulent transfer window in league history, incoming. This is after the most opulent transfer window in league history, outgoing in the summer. This is a bet on, again, obviously I love the talent on the team, and I'm going to get there in a second. Garth Lagerwey president, Chris Henderson sporting director, Ronnie Dyla head coach. All 3 of them have won trophies, all 3 of them to varying degrees, like starting with Garth. I think he's been the best sporting director in league history. If he's not your best, he's absolutely in that Mount Rushmore in that final conversation. Chris Henderson, with Garth Lagerwey, all he does is win. All the things he did in Miami, that job changed like 4 times under his watch and through nothing to do with his own, from sanctions to Messi to everything else, to figure this out, figure that out. Guess what? He figured it out at every stage. He's brilliant. It's awesome. Ronnie Dyla wins MLS Cup. NYCFC were really, really good under Ronnie Dyla. I'm expecting that here. In the team, they bring back Miguel Marón. They have Alexei Miranchuk, who came in the summer, and now they have Emmanuel Latte-Loft, the new league record center forward. They're going to be dynamic. They're going to be kill you in transition, and then when you drop in, Alexei Miranchuk and Miguel Marón can do a lot against the pack defense. Matty Click is going to help with set pieces as well. The defensive unit, I'm worried about Brad Guzan. I know that he had the heroic playoff run. That would have been a cool way to go out. That would have been a cool way. Like, again, I'm glad he's still playing because he's fun to watch. I'm just saying, unfair to expect him to be what he was against Inter Miami in the playoffs, and maybe that's a cause for concern. But the attack is going to be awesome. Sabalob Janitze as your second best player? Sabalob Janitze as your 4th best attacker? Yes, I think that's an excellent spot for him. John De Silva, same thing. When you're relying on him, no matter what, whether you're good, bad, or indifferent, you have to start every week. Now he's going to be fighting for minutes and trying to prove why he earns minutes, and everything he's going to give you is additive. So this team is deep, but most importantly, the top-end talent of the infrastructure, they're going to be awesome. 7, Charlotte FC. It's a similar kind of bet in terms of the structure, but in a different way. Their defensive unit was one of the best in MLS last year. They're returning everybody. They have Tim Ream playing the elbow back role as a left back, but he's a center back when you're in, he's not overlapping, right? And they brought in Wilfried Zaha. Wilfried Zaha comes in. He's going to make life easier for Patrick Agyemang, for Liel Abada, for Pep Biel. Liel Abada and Pep Biel came in during the season last year. Liel Abada at the end of March, I believe, was when he debuted, and then Pep Biel in August when he debuted. They're getting a full preseason, so even just that, I'd be higher on them. Well, now neither one of them are qualified to be the best guy in an attack. Same thing with Patrick Agyemang, who we obviously love. Wilfried Zaha is. So now, Patrick Agyemang has much more space. He has another attacker to play off of. Pep Biel isn't relied on, and Liel Abada aren't relied on to be the guy when things break down and say, crap, it's the 80th minute, it's 1-1, go get us a goal. Now that's Wilfried Zaha. Wilfred Zaha is a potential MVP candidate. He's a potential best 11 guy. If he hits that with this defensive unit, Adilson Milana taking another step forward, this team is going to be awesome. Central midfield, yes, they're getting older, but Ashley Westwood, I believe he covered the most ground in MLS last year. And again, that has to do with minutes played, right? But it's not like he's a liability defensively. Again, that could happen. Those things sneak up on you quickly. He's not there yet, but we'll see. They have other options in central midfield. They brought in Eric Williamson. I know that he's more of a possession-based player, and what I'm talking about right now has to do more with defensive transition and ball winning. But again, the defensive unit is elite. Shot stopping for Christian Colina, reigning goalkeeper of the year. Really, really strong. Number 6, New York Red Bulls. So this is a team that, I'll go at my guy, Matt Doyle. He was like, underwhelmed by the offseason. I couldn't disagree more. I was out on the Choupo-Moting signing, and then I talked to more people around the team, and then I talked to people who played against him in preseason so far, and then I watched him a little bit in preseason. If this guy starts 25 games or whatever, right? Like, you don't bet on him to play 3,000 minutes or 2,800 minutes. But he's top quality. If Forsberg starts 25 games, they're going to be very good. But now, if he doesn't, they'll have Choupo-Moting. So you're giving yourself more chances with more high-end talent. Where last year, when Emil Forsberg wasn't available, everything fell apart. Particularly when Lewis Morgan was kind of in and out as well with international duty and other stuff. As long as they have 2 out of 3 of Choupo-Moting, Morgan, and Forsberg, they're going to be very good. And yes, there's a possibility that 2 of those 3 are missing at times. And they do have another DP spot that I would love for them to use. But I think what they've done has been really good. Alexander Hack, a 31-year-old center back, that profile looks really, really strong. So going on and remaking their left back depth chart with John Tolkien moving on to Germany, they have a couple different potential starters with Marcelo Morales and with Raheem Edwards. You go on down this list, like this team is strong and deep in a lot of spots. Last year we were worried about top end talent. Emil Forsberg came in, and then when he got hurt, you worried about it again, and you saw it very clearly. That's why they were 7th or whatever rather than 3rd. This year, that's not going to be an issue, I don't think. Here we are, the top tier of my MLS 2025 preseason rankings, your Apex contenders. 5 LA Galaxy, 4 LAFC, 3 Seattle Sounders, 2 Inter Miami, 1 FC Cincinnati. These are the 5 teams I expect that anytime they're in a competition, Supporters Shield, MLS Cup playoffs, Champions Cup, Leagues Cup, Open Cup, whatever it is, among the favorites. And the LA Galaxy, I have them at 5 just because Ricky Puig is injured until the summer or fall. He's going to be back. And Joseph Paintsel is injured for 5 to 7 weeks. He's going to be back. They still have Gabriel Peck, Christian Ramirez. Defensive unit is coming back, including around Amiro Garces. They bring in Zonka. They're going to be fine. This is not the best version of them at the beginning of the season. That's okay. Who cares? Maybe they won't push for the Shield. That's about as far as I'll give you, because I think that they're coming to the end of the season, they'll be one of these best 5 teams in the league. So LA Galaxy, reigning MLS Cup champs. We're going to move to LAFC. LAFC, I was really, really high on them because they just figure out a way. They win games, right? Like whether it's pretty or not. They have Denny Bouanga. He never misses games. He's a best bet that there is availability. And knock on wood, hopefully I'm not jinxing anything, but looking what he's done in his career, how consistent he is, not just with availability. He's the same guy every time he plays. Maybe he misses. There's a streak where he scores more chances than he misses, but you know what you're getting is just a relentless winger who's going to run at you with the ball, is going to beat players, he's going to get in behind, he's going to uncork incredible shots with both feet. Like, that's great to have. And then the defensive unit, again, Aaron Long is back, Hugo Lloris in goal. Olivier Giroud realistically can't score any less goals than he did last year. It was 1 across all competitions, I think. 0 in MLS, so I'm expecting something better. I'm still holding on to that one. And now they're bringing in Cengiz Ünder as a DP winger to hopefully get you to the summer where either you keep Ünder or you sign Antoine Griezmann. That's really strong. That's the LAFC way. They are my MLS Cup pick, and if any of these 5 would have been my MLS Cup pick, and I just kind of went with LAFC. You never know. Who knows what it's going to look like in the playoffs, who's available, what happens or not. Any one of these 5 teams is the best bet to win the trophies. Number 3, Seattle Sounders. I kind of went back and forth with Seattle and LAFC to write them as my MLS Cup winner. Like, I leaned with LAFC just because Bouanga is better than any player Seattle has. But Seattle has a ton of really good players. They have a ton of match winners. Albert Rusnak, Jordan Morris, Jesus Ferreira. What can Pedro de la Vega give this year? Going down the list, like, even Paul Arriola is a backup for them right now. They had the best defense in the league. The defensive unit, they're all back. Obed Vargas, another step forward. I could name 19 guys in this roster that I'm a really big fan of. Brian Schmetzer, absolutely consistent winning head coach in this league. What more do you want, right? Like, so, yeah, they didn't go out and sign a $10 million DP. That's fine. I think they're going to be really, really good anyway. So, Seattle Sounders, this is a team that, yes, that they have Club World Cup and other competitions. They should be really pushing for Shield because this is a team that's built to win the Supporters Shield. Great defensively, a ton of different options in the attack, and a ton of different options in depth and rotation that they shouldn't be slowed down by the other competitions. It's difficult, but they should be in the mix. Number 2, Inter Miami. I still have my questions about this team. I have my questions about defensive transition, about, yes, they're going to overperform their expected goals when you have Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, but by the amount they did last year, what I know is true is that they can't go down as many times as they did last year. They won so many points from losing positions. That's just not sustainable. Again, you're going to break models with Messi and the other top-end quality that they have. Tadio Allende, I think that's a really good signing, and the little bits I've seen from him, I can't wait to watch him moving forward. That could give the attack another dimension. Telasco Segovia, I've heard a lot of good things about this kid. He needs to be the Diego Gomez replacement because that was a player that was very, very important to this team. I think he will be. This is going to be a team that, again, whatever competition they're in, they're going to be expected to win, as they should. They have Messi. I didn't pick them for trophies because I think that they have too many issues defensively, but Tomas Aviles has so much experience now at his young age. He's very athletic still. They've brought in several new defenders, so maybe they fix that. But we're going to see. This is going to be one of the best teams in the league. It's nitpicking, right? It's how many teams have I said I'm worried about in defensive transition? Yeah, Miami too, but that's fine. They have the brute top-end talent, the best player that ever played. That's going to paper over a lot of cracks. But not enough to be number 1. For me, FC Cincinnati, that's number 1. I love what they did this offseason. It's been tumultuous, and I think because of that nature, we haven't looked at the positives. So let's look at the positives. Evander, MVP candidate from last year, more than 30 goal contributions, whatever it was. He's going to be even better with Cincinnati, is my view, because of the structure behind him, because of the defensive players behind him, because of that back three. Kevin Denke, he's the second highest transfer fee ever in MLS history. He's entering his prime, somebody who scored a ton of goals in Belgium, somebody whose physical nature is going to lend itself really well in this league, and it's going to lend itself really well in this specific team to give Evander more space underneath and give Evander, hey, like, I know that you're a 10, I know that you're going to create chances, but we got Luca Orellano, we got wingbacks that are going to create chances. How about you focus more on scoring goals maybe? How many goals could this guy score? He's an incredible finisher, incredible ball striker, all that. So between those three, again, I just said Luca Orellano, the wingbacks, Obi Nwabodo is still one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. Pavel Buka is really good in his first season. The back three of Miles Robinson, Matt Miazga, and Teenage Tadabe in front of Roman Celentano, that is an incredibly strong defense. It's going to be an exciting defense because sometimes you say, oh, it's boring when teams are good defensively. This is going to be a super aggressive defensive team. Miles Robinson is going to be stepping up the pitch. Teenage Tadabe, same thing, just winning the ball all over the place with Matt Miazga as kind of the anchor behind them or with them. I can't say enough good things about this team. I think that they have a really high floor because of that defensive unit and a really high ceiling because of that attacking trio. And there's enough in between where I don't think the delta is very large. I think that this is comfortably a top 4 team in the East. Sure, weird things happen in MLS. There could be injuries like what happened to Cincy last year. They had an injury nightmare last season. And they still were near the Supporters' Shield race because of Lucho Acosta. They didn't have a DP forward. Aaron Bupenza didn't give them anything. Then he got knocked out. Then he got bought out. They had a couple deals fall through for DPs. They end up with Nico Gioacchini on the last day, in the last minute, as a contingency. He didn't give them anything. And they still were good down the stretch. They didn't advance in the playoffs, but that's because they ran out of energy. They ran out of everything else. This is going to be one of the best teams in the league for me. This is my Supporters' Shield pick. FC Cincinnati, top of my preseason power. All right, I'm talking too much. That's enough for me to close my laptop, shut up, get this up, get this out. That's my first power rankings of the 2025 season. Once again, please go listen to Soccerwise. We've got a bunch of great shows up here for you. Can't wait to see what's coming up next. We got the Golden Boot draft on Thursday. Hopefully you're still watching this video after we already did that, but go listen to that if you haven't. It's going to be so much fun with me, Goss, Doyle, Weeby, and producer Anders, Team K1 Carr with me on the Golden Boot, looking for our 3-beat. No big deal. I'll be in CBS next week. Tune in to Morning Footy if you're so inclined. And MLS is back, baby. We're here. We're going to have a lot more coming for you.